Good evening, everyone, from Christchurch here in the South Island, where it is freezing cold. I don't know where you are tuned in from. Great to see some people already tuning in. Don't know where you are in New Zealand at the moment, but it is very cold down here in the south. A really cold day. So I've just come back in from freezing cold. Now we have a visitor, a guest who's coming in shortly. She's just arriving. Actually, she just made me a cup of tea. It's quite nice to have Bronnie Lyell with me today. For those who know Bronnie, actually for those who don't know Bronnie was a candidate for New Conservative in the 2020 election, but she hasn't been around for a while because Bronnie moved to the far end of the North Island. And so I don't get to see her very much. So when I knew she was coming down to Christchurch, I thought, what a fantastic opportunity to have her on the couch here with me. And yeah, so that's wonderful. I was trying to set up earlier today so that you could see us both on the couch together. But for those who don't know me, I'm not so keen on technology, and clearly that was a bit much to ask for me to have that sorted, but she is here on the other couch and she will tune in shortly. So we do have Bronnie, who is a counsellor. That's her profession, and I'll talk just a little bit more about her soon. So I can see some people there, and just welcome tonight for our chat on the couch. We're going to talk around... what are we talking about tonight, Bronnie? Anything could happen. However, I do have a couple of things I want to mention and then ask for Bronnie's professional opinion on these things. So I'm going to ask her a couple of questions while she's here with us.
Get on.
And you will also be able to ask her some questions as well. So I will keep an eye out for any comments that come through, but just bear with us, because while we are talking, we may not see the comments straight away, but we will get back to you, throughout the podcast tonight with your questions. And I can see someone, Rachel. Yes, good evening. Lovely to see you again, Rachel. Great that you are here. Right, so I'm just going to see if I can get Bronnie into the studio. Where are we? Hopefully you haven't lost anybody out there. But just while we're waiting for her to connect, I'll just explain a little bit. I should have put the cats out. They're going crazy over there. Anyway, I'll just, as I talk about some of Bronnie's experience over her career, she's trying to tune in now. So as I said, she's a counsellor. She's from far up north, but in Christchurch for the week. Bronnie has worked in private practice counselling as well as agency work, mostly with youth and their families, which included going into schools or homes to work with teens and children. She's been running programs around healthy choices, anger management, parenting skills, etc., as well as working with suicidal individuals, young and old. She's worked with people in crisis and worked with other agencies and organisations just to see the best outcomes for people. So it's great to have Bronnie here. I'm really grateful that we can ask Bronnie some questions, some of those things that concern most of you. I might have to share the screen because she's actually probably about as illiterate as I am with technology, so she's still not on at the moment, or maybe she's waiting for me to let her in. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is dive into an issue with social media, and what I'll do is I'll get Bronnie to come over and join me on this couch shortly because she's having trouble logging in, but so you can still see her very soon. I'll get her to jump over the side. Right, so diving into social media, I just want to talk about the influx of social media influencers that have easy access to our youth. I'd say easy, and the volume of access they have for our youth. It's become accepted by some in the digital social world that choosing a gender is the norm. Now, I'm not going to talk about gender all night for those who have tuned in and thinking, oh, here we go. We are going to talk about a lot of things, but I'm just going to start with this because of the social media. I just think it's really important to highlight a few of these things. Now, we know that this is actually a social contagion. And in my opinion, the issues with the gender dysphoria is akin to personality disorders, and some would be simply navigating the challenging years of puberty. I'll just explain a little bit of a personal story. So similar to my experience when I was a troubled young person, as probably many of you in the audience may have been as well. It's the cat. Traversing the age of punk, okay, for those of you out there who haven't been alive for long enough to know what a CD player or a tape deck is, where you put a tape in to listen to music, what punk is where we would dress in complete black. We'd have really dark black eye makeup on, spiked up coloured hair, piercings everywhere, and my Doc Marten boots. Yes, that was me. So my phase of punk rock at 13, it then followed for the next generation. It became called Gothic and then Memo. So some of you may have heard those terms. Now it's actually finding Nemo, finding your genitalia. That might make for a good movie, choosing your genitals. Okay, seriously though, this is not a harmless fad where you can just grow out your hair, remove your piercings and tattoos, to which I have done all of those things. Many of you won't know that before I trained as a teacher, I spent 2 years going through the process of having laser treatment on my arm, which were full of tattoos. Did you know that, Bronnie?
Yeah.
You did. And all that started as a messed up young person. But look, that's mild compared with sewing on and cutting off appendages. Our concerns for many of us is trans activists sharing their journey of transitioning on social media as some glorious school bus trip outing to the doctors for a prescription to get hormones. So, Bronnie, my question to you, I know you're going to have to jump over here because clearly... we can try and turn it, yeah. So my question to you is, where are the medical professionals in the space in New Zealand who are going to, or should be cautioning, actually, no, let me use a stronger language, who should be calling out this experimenting on children as criminal? Can you give us your professional thoughts? And I'll just turn the screen around. Is that going to work? Can you see there? There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Hi, everybody. I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah, is that a washing?
Are you able to?
Yeah, no, you have it. You come, jump there. Jump there. Excuse our professionalism with the.
No, there's a light. That light's really in the wrong place. But is that a bit better?
Just turn it off. It's right by your hand. There you go.
There we go. Right. So, evening, everybody. Helen's absolutely right when it comes to this is a far more dangerous fad, if you like, and it's not just a fad that is easily changed. I mean, it's very normal and natural for especially young teenagers, to go through the whole identity thing of where do I fit in, where am I accepted, what's actually, where do I fit in the world? Now, unfortunately, this whole trans movement is a top-down movement. In other words, it's being pushed politically. It is being pushed by people with a real agenda. And unfortunately, they paint a very glossy, wonderful future for these children, but they don't tell them about the consequences of those choices. They say, oh, it's no trouble, you just go on the hormones, just have the pills and you'll feel a whole lot better. Well, we know from experience that is not true. That actually, when you go down the track of, the whole gender thing, or even furries, it's actually getting from some pretty serious mental health issues. And sadly, because it's being politicized and, people are threatened with their jobs now if you speak against it, and especially teachers and psychologists, even though they know that in the DSM-4, gender dysphoria was classed as a mental illness still. But now they changed that because they have decided that actually we'll just call it, we'll declassify it as a mental illness and, actually try and normalize it so that we can actually impact the next generation, and not in a positive way, because there are so many that have gone down that track and, let's face it, and have massive regret. And because the procedures that they push on these children are actually permanent and very destructive on their bodies. The hormone therapy causes all sorts of things like, makes the bones really porous, and it causes the reproductive organs to shrink, and that is actually a very painful process. They don't tell the children any of that, and let's face it, the American Association of Psychology, or whatever their handle was, came out and said it's just child abuse, and I totally agree with them. It's child abuse to lead a child down a path that they have no concept of the permanence of their those decisions. That's why you get people with huge regret, and ones that are now, they've done the reversal, but they now still have to live with consequences of those choices. So yeah, it's a very serious thing that is being pushed on the next generation. And I would support any parents who are in the terrible situation of having to deal with this within their own family dynamic, because they're not getting a lot of support. There's not a lot of support out there for parents, and unfortunately, because the teachers are running scared, instead of banding together and saying, we're not going to run with this rubbish, and they're not pushing back. And it's just criminal that a few of the top, these politicians and these transgender activists are able to legislate what you can and cannot say in a counselling room, or to support truth, because there's no way that you can actually change your biology, your biological sex. And it seriously makes things very awkward for many, and in not just the health profession, counselling, teachers, you name it, it's being pushed everywhere, and it's absolutely not okay.
I've just noticed there's a comment there from Juliana. Hi, Juliana. Nice of you to join us tonight. There is child safeguarding is being ignored, and people such as Sue Bagshaw, yes, insisting that kids are now know best. Well, ask parents whether their children know best or not. That would be an interesting one. She's talking about they're not capable of consent. That's correct. There is a case there, affirmed 25 years as age of mental maturity. Yeah, so there's a lot of law, you're right, Juliana, where this, that we can refer to if you're out there and you are coming up against any of this, where the parents that I spoke with last week, they were beside themselves about the fact that they have no one to go to. And, Bronnie touched on it just before, but, when I asked her around why are the medical professionals, whether it's, the doctors or counsellors or psychologists, why are they not actually stepping up? But they're afraid. And, this might be a conversation for another time, but these parents believe that it's partly to do with the conversion therapy bill that was brought in, because these professionals are so afraid to talk about and touch this gender issue, because then there'll be there'll be claims of conversion, and so they just don't want to see these children, and are being referred straight through to the likes of the Inside Out organisation and places like that, where they're all gender affirming.
The trouble with is that they call it conversion therapy, but the truth is it's the activists, the gay activists that are targeting children online that are doing the conversion stuff. It's not the parents, or and the majority of the population don't actually agree with the what's being pushed in the schools, or the so-called treatments, which are not treatments at all. It's abuse. It's an abuse to mutilate a child's body because of their confusion around where they fit in the world. It's not okay.
Can I just point out too, when you said, I think you said something about gay, I was questioned about using the term gay recently in a different space, and just like to acknowledge that we know that a lot of gay people in the queer space actually are against this as well. And so it's more around the trans, the radical trans people. So if we go back to those influences that are, all across the social media, I read somewhere recently about social media addictions, and you'd know obviously a lot about addictions. It talked about the dangers of external mediators of desire, and so I had to look that up. But what it is basically is we all have desires, but your desire, and especially in this case, is being socially reinforced by the influences. This addiction, what happens is there's no end to, well, in any addiction, you're always seeking more and more. And whether it's to be the kind of person that we don't feel that we are. Let's face it, I'd love to be a kinder person, but we know that I'm not, or wanting any of our body or features to be different. It's great to have role models, but what type of models are these influences that your young people are going to? Do they model the values and virtues, or is it all superficial on the external factors? There's a dangerous, vicious cycle around desire when it comes from something that we feel like we lack, and we're always wanting more. You could argue that we see this in the incessant drive to be more and more visible with some of the rainbow community. Now, this is why I often, some of you might hear me making statements that question what is it that we're teaching our young people, that they need to find their strength, their identity or value in the affirmation of others, even from strangers, really, because that, to me, is what this whole inclusive diversity drive in society is actually doing. It's not just in the education sector. Companies are sending staff off to re-education. And I was talking to someone recently, even in insurance, and he's going off in May to a mind-bending workshop where they've been told it's got something to do with choosing your language carefully or using your language carefully. That to me sounds like enforcing censorship. Since when did it become the role or our duty of everyone in society actually to make you feel better? For example, Bronnie, I mean, I understand that one of your roles as a counsellor, someone may come to you that does need that for you to affirm them, but is that the responsibility of every member of society? Because I feel like we're taking away the power of the individual who will need constant validation to feel any sense of value, and they'll lose all that internal sense of their belief. And to me, that's a travesty. What are your thoughts around that aspect?
Yeah, there's no way that anyone else should be responsible for. I mean, I know that there's certain social responsibilities that we look out for each other, and we, if somebody's in trouble, we help them out, that kind of thing. No problem there at all. But when a child is struggling with their identity, it is abusive to actually affirm them in something, in a lie, because it's not true that you can change your gender. You cannot change your chromosomes. You cannot change, what you were born with.
Are you trying to tell me that all of our cells and molecules don't have a gender identity?
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's it is something that's being the way I see it is that it's the trans community, and again, I mean, like I said, people can choose whatever they want, but don't you come for the children, because that is absolute abuse and corrupting their minds with lies and deceit, because you cannot change your biological sex. You can, paint a car whatever color you want. Doesn't change what it actually is. Doesn't suddenly become attractive because you paint tractor wheels on it. It's just ridiculous, but unfortunately, because everything's so online, and you talk about addiction, well, we call the screen time stuff is equivalent to digital cocaine on the mind of a child. It is absolutely destructive, and sadly, there's so many children today that spend probably the majority of their out of school hours online, and that's because this vacuum is created. Mum and dad have to get out to work, and they're left teenagers are often left to their own devices after school, and it's they can be targeted even in the classroom. And I know even like the likes of, a few years ago I was doing some research around this and seeing what schools actually had some safety nets on their internet platforms for the children, and came across a couple of principals who said, oh no, they don't need any protective factors at school. This is college age kids, but sometimes the colleges and intermediates are mixed in some of these colleges, so therefore it meant that these younger kids were also exposed to anything and anyone, and they're fair game on the internet, and unfortunately there are types out there that will target them, and it's not just the trans you're talking. It's dangerous.
It's a really good place for those undesirables to actually be getting access to
predators.
to children. I mean, we've seen that through, is it NetSafe? NetSafe's the organisation who is monitoring a lot of the harmful stuff that's happening online. But a lot of that goes amiss. I think there was a case I saw recently where, there was a guy who had had an identification of a younger person, and he was luring children into a space where they then started sending him nude photos, and it was actually really disgusting case that I've read. So
I can tell you numerous cases where, you know, these young ones have even gone to the point they have, you know, suicided because they thought that they were actually communicating with some handsome young guy, and all the time it was no one of the sort. A couple that was actually nasty girls who had targeted this particular child, and it was just appalling. But that's just one little case, you know, and there's so much goes on in a college in one day. It's ridiculous. So
I just want to change track a little bit. Last week, I don't know whether you tuned in, Bronnie, but I had talked to these parents who told me about the situation they're going through now. And for the last 2 years, I've been dealing with this issue, and their child came and told them when they were 12, when she was 12, that she's transgender. Anyway, the school had, been going behind their back around the name. The child was being called, you know, boy, and had a different persona at school, and parents didn't know about it at first. And this has happened also to another parent here in Christchurch who I've I've had on meetings. But, you know, I mean, you have experience of how a school can go behind the parents' backs.
Yep.
You've worked in schools, even around taking pregnant young children for abortions. I mean, you've seen that kind of. So what is, at a school level, who makes these decisions? I mean, how do these conditions happen?
Well, unfortunately, and again, as part of the research I was doing, that they basically consider that the school takes over the parental role as soon as your child walks onto that thing. So they don't actually have to tell you what they do. And see, this is the infuriating thing about it right from the start. Any school that operates around deceit, in other words, deceiving parents, deceiving the child because they are leading them down the track of a lie. Okay, the abortion one is slightly different because they actually have to deal with, work with practical stuff. And thankfully, I have worked with counsellors in college who will not cut off a child from their main support. In other words, they will go with the child to talk to the parents. Because, yes, a lot of the parents will be upset, but at the end of the day, they love their child and want the best for them. So, and it's something, big issues like that need to be worked through as a family, not...
But how does the family, I mean, these families don't know. So, for example,
that's what I mean.
If a teenager is pregnant or if we've got a confused child about their gender, isn't written up in a policy that the parents can just see this stuff. So when a parent first enrolls their child in a public school, where does it say that now the parent, what you said about this, the school takes over the authority?
Oh, it's not put out there.
There's nothing put out there.
No.
So it might be a good idea for parents that are watching now and listening out there to actually have these conversations with your school or even our education minister, because this is actually horrific that you don't even know that you're sending your children off and you've basically signed away those hours that it's a school now who will be making the big decisions for your children. And in your professional opinion, Bronnie, would you agree with me in that providing any medical or psychological advice or suggestions is actually overstepping the boundaries of their teaching practice? I mean, they are guilty, in my opinion, the duty of care by jeopardising a young person's health by allowing education staff or even the NGOs like the institutions that come in, such as Inside Out, by making suggestions and directing these children who are confused. What we know is normal puberty, which is challenging to all people. Let's face it, we know that puberty is normal for it to be uncomfortable, right? And yet what they're doing is this could harm many children who are navigating puberty, leading them down this path. As we know, the school is actually exasperating their confusion So
exacerbating. Yeah.
why are we doing this as a whole school? We've adopted it as a whole school intervention when it should be something that the likes of yourself, counsellors and that are actually dealing with the families.
Again, it comes back into the politics and the agendas behind it. It's, these few, like your teachers, registration board, like the
teaching council.
Teaching council. Same for the doctors, same for counsellors. They've all been given the hard word about, you have to run with this, or you risk being heavily fined, or you can, if you are...
Or you're deregistered.
Or you're deregistered,
right?
that's
how
right.
many teachers now have left teaching because they know they can't tick off this criteria of, affirming children.
And the garbage that's actually in the sex education program that they've had in the schools for, at least 10 years now. They just lie. And, saying, is a young girl impacted emotionally by having an abortion? And the correct answer is no. Well, that's a blatant lie. There is no way that they should be even touching that whole subject. You're teachers, not flipping health or mental health advisors. It's, and this is the trouble. The people that have written that curriculum are all, have an agenda, and they are out to, unfortunately, supposedly give students free choice, but it's actually not a choice when they are pretty much bullied into the thing, because if they don't do as they're advised, then they are rejected. And this is the other thing I see about the trans activists is, they want people to explore their sexuality, these kids to explore their sexuality and join them in the rainbow community. But if they dare try and leave it, my goodness, all hell breaks loose. So, it's just a very one-sided affair.
So, you're telling me that all that kindness and stuff just goes out the window.
Disappears.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking about the, what you're talking about is one way that they lead them, and where's all the accurate, where is the ability for parents to receive accurate information and support from qualified professionals? It's crucial, even for the educators and organisations, to follow ethical guidelines. Where are the ethical guidelines? I don't even know anymore. It's all about teacher registration that we're following criteria, but where are the ethical guidelines?
Well, this is the trouble. There's a lot of boundary crossing that goes on in the schools, and these people that have written these programs are not. They might be professionals in one area, but that's not, that actually doesn't qualify them to do that sort of thing. But if parent, I really encourage parents to find out exactly what is being taught in the classroom to their young ones, and get vocal and find some support, whether it be online or within the local community, because each school will be different. I know there's a lot of principals or a lot of teachers who say, not on my watch, we're not running with that. But
so I'm just playing around with the screen here. Keep going.
So there's still a lot of good teachers out there, and who are not buying or swallowing the propaganda from the government and the the rainbow community.
I just noticed that Rachel, well, she's made a few comments, but the last one there is about freedom of speech. And look, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking now, because there's such an agenda out there where speech is, there's people that want speech limited online. And so I'm, people out there know me, but I am going to be pushing the boundaries a little bit on that, because it's so important that we make a big stand around the speech. And what I'd like to do now, Bronnie, is just touch on last week I put a post up that I wanted to talk about how homophobic Christchurch is, and some people might be listening or later tuning in because they want to know what I meant by that. I'm calling Christchurch out as being homophobic. Okay.
All right.
So the reason why I'm saying this, and I'm from Christchurch, is because I've seen a few articles over the past couple of years where there's been this conversation around that we are not diverse and we don't embrace people who have differences, or people from the queer community, let's put it that way. Anyway, what I'd like to do is share a little article. So some of you might know I'm in university. I'm doing my degree in law, halfway through that. So I was in uni a few weeks back, and I picked up the local university magazine, which is Cantor magazine. It's where are we, Cantor? Some of you might have heard about that in your own uni days. Anyway, this one, I looked through it just out of curiosity, and there's a lot of rainbow stuff on there, and I was thinking, it must be Rainbow Week or month or whatever, but I don't think it was. I think that's coming up. But who knows these days? It seems to be every week. So I have no idea, but good on the rainbow community. I would just like to focus on this one article, though. It's really important because it kind of, to me, exposes where some of these conversations are coming from around the idea that Christchurch is homophobic. And this particular article is actually written by one of the law lecturers at Canterbury University. And fortunately, I haven't actually, well, I don't know if I should say fortunately, but I haven't come across this particular lecturer as yet. However, some of my friends who are at university with me have, and they've told me about how this particular lecturer feels the need to tell them about her sexuality. And they tell me what they think about that. So I would just, this particular lecturer may watch this at some point, and that's okay, because maybe she'll learn something about what people who are not part of the queer community think when they're going to university, spending their money, going there to learn something, not about her particular sexuality. So I'll just start off. She starts by saying, it's no secret that Christchurch has a reputation for a lack of diversity. What does that mean? What does that mean? Christchurch does not have diversity. For queer students moving to UC, it is understandably daunting moving to a new city that may not be as accepting of them as their previous homes. This is the lecturer who is saying this. I mean, they're very loaded. It's a very loaded statement.
Is that not true for most people moving cities to go to a university? It's all new. They don't know anybody, and they just find their way like everybody else.
I'm sorry, but I just walk into uni and just do my own thing. Yeah. I'm not there to see if anybody's going to accept me or not. I mean, I'm there to learn. I'm not there to be, friends with the faculty. She goes on. Well, actually, it goes on here. Senior law lecturer Cassandra Mudgway, and one of UC's newest clubs, Queer in Law, are successfully creating transformative, whatever that means, spaces for queer students to finally feel visible. Okay, just let that sink in. To finally feel visible. Yeah, so I don't know about you, but are queer people, if you're out there and you're a queer person, let me know. Send me a message. Do you feel visible, and how important is this to you? Because I don't know, do you need to feel more visible than any of us? Do you feel visible, Bron? I don't.
Don't really want to be.
I don't either, actually. But seriously though, send us some information. Now it goes on. She goes on, and there's a fair bit of victimhood type stuff here. She goes on, and it comes to, while working, bear with me because this is pretty important. While working at AUT, which is Auckland University, Mudgeway noticed that it had a very different vibe to UC, which is in Canterbury. It's diverse in every way you can think of. How many ways are there to be diverse? But students felt very comfortable being themselves. They didn't feel excluded as much as I felt. She thought to herself, wow, we're moving forward. The kids are okay. I feel like I'm at a primary school here. But when she returned to UC, she noticed that Ōtautahi Christchurch hadn't moved quite as quickly. Now, this is coming from Miss Mudgeway. When I introduce myself to students, I say I'm part of the rainbow community and I'm neurodiverse, so they can understand where I'm coming from. Now, I pay a lot of money.
Neurodiverse.
But I pay a lot of money to go to university. I'm in debt, it's my second degree. So for those people out there who have gone to university, you know how much debt that you get in. You're paying. No one's forcing you to go to uni. You're going there for yourself, though, because you're going there to learn something you want to know about for your future. This lecturer, she's in law. So her sexuality has got nothing to do with her teaching law. I kind of feel like, do I need to know? Do I need to know that you're from the rainbow community? Do I need to know? I'm paying for this to go there. And I just really struggle with this. The student, I won't say his name, highlighted that prior to Mudgeway's first introduction at UC, he had never heard a law lecturer come out before. Now, is that because it's not appropriate for a lecturer to stand up there? I mean, picture this, please. Picture this. You're up the front. There's an auditorium full of students, different ages, different demographics. There's hundreds of them, in fact. And you announce to them, or you feel the need to tell them that you're gay. Why? Just asking. Come back to me if you have an answer about that, because I struggle to understand why. Is this about you or is it about me? Because I'm not there for you. Just saying. Anyway.
Identity problems.
Yeah, this person goes on to say, I personally faced a lot of violence when people perceived my sexuality, and I still think that's going on in Christchurch. I love Christchurch, but we can't forget its history, and that unfortunately does cast a shadow on the university. There's still a lot of hostility towards minority groups. Where is this being measured? And
how? Exactly. How can she talk about violence? That's what I want to know. I mean, how do you, as an academic, you're writing this for students. Now, on the back page, it says, if you're reading this, you are gay. Cool. So they can joke about things. That's fine. But we're not allowed to joke about anything, are we? So I just really struggle with that because, I've seen a fair bit of that. And there was an article recently in somewhere online, but it was an article written from somebody saying, why doesn't Christchurch have what is it? The zebra crossing? Oh,
the coloured one.
The rainbow crossing.
Why doesn't Christchurch have one? Because
they're illegal.
There's somebody who's apparently...
They're actually illegal.
But there's somebody petitioning about one, because he feels, just like this article here of this academic who said that we're not accepting, he feels, this queer person feels like if we have the zebra crossing in their colours, he'll feel like we're embracing them better. What's going on? I mean, please tell me, people, if you're out there, what is going on in our communities where there's such a need that people feel you have to be accepted by every Tom, Dick and Harry? And so Rachel, she's said a few things. Okay, Rachel, thanks, because it's great. I hope somebody else is going to comment as well. Do we need to know their hobbies, religion, family, structure, occupation? Yes, good point. So I don't ever recall any lecturer telling me whether they're married, whether they've got children, whether they've got 3 dogs and a cat. They're not there for that. And they've never done that. So I just, and Charmaine has piped in. Thank you, Charmaine. Narcissism.
Yes, it's
100%.
To me, it's totally unprofessional when a lecturer feels like they have to voice to the whole lecture room what they do in their private life. It has got nothing to do with their professional job, which is to teach whatever that subject is, be it law, be it, agriculture, whatever. There is no need, and highly unprofessional of any lecturer to be announcing personal information, especially around your sexuality. Who gives a rip? I don't want to know.
Actually, Bronnie, I don't give a rip either. And it's like, let's laugh about this, because I'm fed up with it. It's like, there's this, people are being accused at the moment for hate flipping crime because, some zebra crossing. The point is, we're all fed up. Yeah. It's like, how much more visibility do you guys need that's more than us?
Not responsible.
What do you know? Who cares? I mean, I've got to put it out there. I know that a lot of the rainbow community are not even on board with all this crap. And I see crap.
Yeah.
I know I'm online and I just said crap. But this is so frustrating. It's really frustrating for people. And so you can see why people get upset and go and paint over it. I mean, to be honest, if we get a rainbow crossing in Christchurch, I really don't care. I do not care. But why do you need it? Like, why do you feel like...
That's all about the visibility, remember?
Oh, that's right. They've got to be visible. Yeah. So where are we? Council. Yes, this is why I care. Okay, thanks, Rachel. You've just reminded me. I don't care, apart from the fact that who's paying for it? I'm not paying for it. I've got enough rates with my house. So Rachel has said the council have denied it will go. Oh, good one. Finally, the council's doing some good work. Watch the space. If they do, I want a crossing. Fair enough, Rachel. I don't see why not. We'll petition for that. The ideology is dominating. Oh, that's a good word. She's got it. She's hit the nail on the head there. It is dominating. Yeah, it's very.
It's very dictatorial and it's highly manipulative because, they're getting all these corporates. I mean, for goodness sake, corporates should stay out of people's personal lives, and it should have nothing to do with people's sexuality, to sell real estate. I totally support that woman who refused to say that, she refused to go to the indoctrination
so they've had the indoctrination camp as well.
Yes,
okay.
Real estates have been told they have to come in line with it, or actually, was that the Maori one? No, it was the Maori one. Sorry, that was.
But this is how ridiculous it's getting.
I know.
It's not just in school. So we put it back on you people, because you've heard it from us. And we're authority on this. That it's ridiculous and we don't need it. The majority of people aren't asking for it. The majority of people in the queer community aren't asking for it. There's only a small section. So push back.
Yeah.
Tell them you're not going to go. I mean, how many of you are they going to sack if you don't go to a re-education workshop? Maggie, who's Maggie? Hi, Maggie. Don't know you, but welcome. There are only... Oh, God, I like her. Oh, did I just assume your pronouns? I'm really sorry if I've offended you, Maggie. There are only two sexes. It's female or male, nothing in between. Oh, gosh, there's lots of comments coming in. Oops, hold on. I'll come back to Maggie. Anything in between is a curse and shall condemn. Okay, remember that this causes. Yep, okay, fine for you to throw your scriptures up there. These words are powerful and effective. Good on you. Good for you. You stand on that. I love it when I see people that stand on what they believe. It's a bit like the Tamaki situation. You know, I don't follow Tamaki, and I've got nothing against the guy. But I must admit, I thought, bloody good job. You know, that's a man that stands up.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, good on him. I don't necessarily think I would have painted over them, but hey, you know, why don't you have a conversation?
Well, the disappointing thing around this whole, you know, flipping Chloe Schwalbach is how embarrassing that somebody would paint over the rainbow thing. But actually, what's really embarrassing is that the Prime Minister chose to support her stand, which is encouraging lawbreakers, rather than saying, well, actually, they're illegal and they need to be painted over, but let's do it in the right way. Instead of going after the people that have, you know, tried to cover them up, they should be going after the people who put them there in the first place, because they were the lawbreakers. There's such perverted standards. Yeah, talk about hypocrisy.
Oh, you need to come and join me every week on this conversation, I think. Yeah. And Dawn, we've got Dawn, who has said completely out of balance with the rest of society. Shall we have a woman's? Oh yeah, I love the idea of a woman's crossing, a man's crossing, a child crossing, pets crossing. Nice one. And then we've got let's just say no.
A friend of mine from Aussie.
Oh, nice. Let's just say no. Yeah, I agree. Hi, Bronnie. I'm so with you, girls. Nice. Hi, Leanne. Thanks for that. I've had enough of it also. It's just as bad here in Australia. Oh, gosh. I was thinking about moving to Australia, Leanne.
So one-sided.
It's manipulation. So right. I mean, these words are fantastic.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head, for the audience. Thank you. You are who you are sexually is not something we need to know. Yeah. And like, there's a cat. I'm going to identify as a cat. My Bronnie mentioned it before, and I've always said this as well. Your sexuality is personal, it's private. Yeah, sure, you want to put it out there, whatever. But I don't actually want to know, because to me it's private, it's personal.
You know, the other side of all of this is that some things in life are really precious, and what they are doing is minimizing something that should be really precious, and that's your sexual identity. And it also robs you of, you know, of the privacy that should be just yours alone. And it brings, you know, robbing people of, you know, this sanctity of life with, you know, let's face it, sex produces life. And when that sort of thing is minimized and abused and, you know, oh, it's nothing, I can be a man if I want to, what a load of bollocks. And it's really degrading women. It's degrading the roles, and each, you know, the genders have different roles, and I don't care what you say, men are stronger than women physically. We already know that. You see it happening in the women's sports. They are, you know, to me, the guys that want to enter women's sports are just a bunch of losers, because they can't win against their own sex, their own men, you know, men. And it's just, it's so corrupt that the politicians would support the lies. And yeah, because let's face it, we do know the truth. The truth is there's no way that a woman can be anything she wants.
I mean, we know that. It was, you know, it's the whole feminism, it's gone a bit wild there. Right?
Well, it is a kickback because of the feminist movement. They trying to, you know, they didn't value who they were as women. They didn't value.
Well, I mean, let's face it, there are some girls that aren't girly and they're more, and that's okay, right? It's okay
I was
to
a
be
tomboy
masculine.
when I grew up.
you know,
I had brothers. I didn't have a sister.
And you can say, like, I remember a time where it's like, yeah, I can do this, I can do that as well, but it doesn't mean to say I really want to be honest. I've learned over the years,
and
yes,
that's not
I'll
to
mow the
say,
lawns, yes, I'll do all that kind of stereotypical stuff, but do I want to? No.
And that's not to say that women can't be mechanics or whatever. If that's your passion, I don't have an issue with that, but at all. But to try and say that you're a man when you're actually a woman is just crazy, and vice versa. It's really sad. It's because it does stem from mental health. And what really frustrates me is that I know of several who have gone to a psychologist, 1 hour consultation, and they're deemed to be trans and are offered, encouraged to take hormone blockers. Now, that is absolutely malpractice in my book, because not only have they not done a thorough background, and you need to be doing your assessment for the first at least 3 or 4 sessions before you can actually truly get a handle on where things have gone wrong, or even longer before people will actually trust enough to reveal what's really deep down. And often we've had a child that was wanted to be a girl. He was only young, and it turns out that his sister was had medical issues, but he, in his child mind, perceived that his parents loved her more than him. So for him to get the same love, he needed to be a girl. Well, thankfully they got help for him, and he was all good after, a few sessions. But, this is what I mean. Often the underlying issue is nothing to do with the gender. It's actually something completely different. So.
And yet today I was reading, actually it was on the radio, I was hoping to phone in, I think it was Heather Duplessis. She was talking to one of the psychologists from up in the Starship Hospital, and they were talking about the puberty blockers, and I really wanted to ring in and talk about it, but they weren't accepting calls at that time. However, he was saying, he was a fan of, well, not a fan, but he said, you need to keep these puberty blockers. But he was trying to say that there are real, stringent kind of testing and that whole process that people have to go to, as well as working with parents. But I know that's absolute rubbish.
That's a lie.
Because I've talked to parents and they had one meeting and they'd start telling them to go and get the puberty blockers, and that's without parents. So don't tell me that they're going through all this rigid criteria before they do it.
Well, he's got to put it out there, doesn't he? Because that's his.
So Dawn has said even the ideologies coming through Christian counselling education is pretty woke, which is super disappointing. I agree. Even the horses, the policemen who were riding on refused to walk. I saw that.
That was funny.
I'd say that sexual immorality. Yes, we know, Charmaine, that you're a strong Christian. Thank you. Only woman can give birth to a baby. I agree.
Totally.
I agree. I cannot believe that we have to sit here in this generation talking about that only women can give birth to babies. But yes.
Well, only women can breastfeed.
And we're not birthing people. We are mothers. Woman.
Again, this whole changing the language to minimize, the sanctity of male and female. It's just, like I said, it's a top-down movement to break down our society as we've known it for years, generations. And
okay, so thank you to the audience. There's lots of things coming in here. I'll just see, I know you've made a lot of comments. It's great. I'll just check if there's any more questions for Bronnie before she goes. We've pretty much almost done an hour. So I'm just going to check. Is there any questions there for you, Bronnie?
No, it doesn't look
Yep. Devaluing motherhood, devaluing mothers, women. Notification appeared on my screen. Oh, very good, Maggie. I'm glad to see that. Thought to tune in. I'm glad that you are anti. Oh, hang on a minute. I'm glad that you are anti-transgender and you are right. Okay, I wouldn't call it anti-transgender. That's a term that they like to throw about, don't they? It's actually just pro-truth.
Yeah, that's right.
Is what I would call it. We're not anti anyone. We're pro-truth, but we do not like certain behaviours where people are forcing their views on the rest of us. That is, that's a no-no.
Well, as adults, we can take it or leave it. We actually are mature enough to make that choice, but unfortunately, children don't. They are not mature enough. Their brains have not developed enough to be able to cope with a lot of these concepts anyway. And it's just bringing confusion and, it's destabilizing them at a very young age, which means they're really vulnerable to suppose, and especially trusted adults, grown-ups in their lives, teachers, etc. Well, it's just really disappointing that, the teachers don't, well, all the professionals actually don't combine and say, look, just
enough.
Leave the kids alone.
Yeah. Now, as you can hear, there's some of us who are out there doing this, and thank you, Bronnie, for being on tonight. I will just let you in, the audience, in on the fact that some of you might have followed us on Real NZ Woman.
Real Woman NZ.
Real Woman NZ. Well, we have been talking about getting back up and running. So you'll be able to see us on that channel again soon. I am trying to talk Bronnie into, put her on the spot, trying to talk Bronnie into being on the show with me, even if we do a monthly show. But I'll be back next week. Some of you might have seen, I'm going to chat with a couple of other women leaders from New Zealand, and we're going to talk about some of these things, not these things, but other things maybe that are affecting society and families, impacting. So thank you to the audience. It's been really good to have you here. Make sure you share our lives and keep the conversation going. Well done those out there who are doing this, standing up to this nonsense, and we will see you again. Thanks, Bronnie.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye.
Good night all.
Good night.